Welcome to the Country Watch Political Intelligence Briefing Quick Hits, a weekly briefing of hot stories across the world in brief. I'm Denise Youngblood Coleman, and I'm the Editor-in-Chief and Senior International Affairs Analyst at Country Watch. The featured country this week in the Political Intelligence Briefing is the United States. January 6th of 2021 was set for the joint session of Congress, where the already certified electoral votes giving victory to Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election would be tallied and formalized. The day unfolded very differently than expected, with the initial debate over objections cut short as insurrectionists breached the grounds of the United States Capitol, invading the Congress and forcing Vice President Mike Pence, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, members of both chambers of Congress, and their staffers into lockdown for safety reasons. This was not simply a protest movement inspired by President Trump's relentless and baseless insistence of mass fraud depriving him of re-election victory. At best, this was an act of mob insurrection. At worst, it was an attempted coup d'etat by extremists. And underlying it all was a complete failure by the security forces on the scene to secure the Capitol, ultimately leading to the deaths and the mauling of several people, including police officers. Those deaths and assaults would signify the fact that no longer could the United States claim to be a country boasting of peaceful transfers of power. Supporters of President Donald Trump, presumably incited by his encouragement to fight for him, breached the US Capitol, scaling the walls and gaining access to the actual building. Soon, marauding gangs of insurrectionists had invaded and were roaming the halls of the Capitol. Video footage from outside showed them beating and bludgeoning police officers, breaking windows and doors, and carrying out other flagrant acts of vandalism and theft of government property. It was later reported that laptops containing sensitive security material were stolen. Video footage from inside the Capitol showed some insurrectionists waving Confederate flags, others invading offices of House leadership, one man with his feet on Speaker Pelosi's desk admitting to stealing her mail, and another man with a smile on his face as he stole the Speaker's lectern. Reports by journalists, as well as video and audio footage, later revealed even more chilling indications of what was planned. At least one person in tactical gear carrying zip ties, and another carrying law enforcement-style flex cuffs, presumably for hostage taking. A mob searching for Nancy Pelosi as they tried to break down the door of her office, where her staff hid under a table for 2.5 hours in the dark. And another mob chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." There was an effort by leadership of the chambers while in hiding to secure assistance from the Washington, D.C. National Guard. That assistance was delayed because of no response from the acting Defense Secretary, Christopher Miller. The National Guard from Virginia and Maryland were also deployed to the nation's capital to help restore security, but only after being inexplicably prevented by the Pentagon. The role of the Pentagon in the failure to secure the Capitol before things swung out of control is expected to garner scrutiny in the period ahead. For his part, President Trump initially tweeted a tepid call for protests to be peaceful, but later tweeted a message implying the attack on democracy, the assault on Congress, was a natural consequence. His Twitter account was suspended as a result for a 12-hour period before ultimately being deplatformed entirely. The president also published a televised speech on Facebook, which was rife with repeated false claims of election fraud, and in which he said to the insurrectionists, "We love you, you're very special." As a result, the video was removed from the Facebook social media platform. Once calm returned to the Capitol and the chambers were secure, the business of tallying the electoral votes resumed on the evening of January 6th. At the end of the process, Joe Biden's election victory was officially confirmed. 306 electoral votes for Biden-Harris, 232 for Trump-Pence. Regardless of whether Donald Trump is at some point in the future legally named as the original coup plotter in the January 6, 2021 events, or if he's sanctioned in some other way is yet to be determined at the time that I'm recording this. The reality, however, is that his complicity in the worst day for American democracy and modernity was becoming a tragic fact to all but his most loyal fans. With fears rising about further incitement by Trump of his followers ahead of Biden's inauguration, there was a growing chorus for Vice President Mike Pence and the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment, declaring the president unable to perform his duties, removing Trump from office, and placing Pence at the helm until Biden could be inaugurated. Pence's inner circle has pushed back on this notion, and a meeting between Trump and Pence on January 11th suggests that the 25th Amendment option would not be invoked. Meanwhile, the call to impeach Trump a second time was rising. Some voices argued that the Senate would not take up the impeachment for conviction and removal. Other voices cautioned that it could incite Trump's base even more. Nevertheless, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi made clear that impeachment was a path that she would traverse if necessary. On January 10th, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi dispatched a letter stating that the impeachment proceedings would commence on January 13th if Vice President Pence did not respond to calls to invoke the 25th Amendment. It should be noted that a Reuters Ipsos poll conducted on January 7th and 8th found that 57% of Americans favor the immediate removal of Trump from office in the aftermath of the attack on the Capitol. Meanwhile, the incoming president of the United States, Joe Biden, was quietly doing the business of assembling his cabinet. To that end, Biden announced that he would nominate federal appeals court judge Merrick Garland to be the next United States Attorney General. Garland was the Supreme Court nominee chosen by President Barack Obama in 2016 to replace the late Antonin Scalia. His nomination was blocked by Republicans. Across the world in the Central African Republic, the country was in a state of chaos after the disputed re-election of President Faustin Touadéra. Rebels allied with the ousted president of Francois Bozize were launching attacks in towns on the outskirts of the capital, Bangui. French warplanes were deployed to the Central African Republic amid the election violence at the request of President Touadéra. Moving east to Ethiopia, where the military had launched a military operation in Tigray against the Tigray People's Liberation Front, a fresh flare of violence was occurring. At issue was an operation by the Ethiopian military to target top officials of the Tigray People's Liberation Front. And to the far east in North Korea, that country's leader, Kim Jong-un, announced that North Korea would expand its nuclear weapons arsenal. He outlined plans for military development, including long-range ballistic missiles capable of being launched from land or sea, and what he called super-large warheads. Just weeks ahead of the change of government in the United States to the new Biden administration, Kim Jong-un also cast the United States as his country's biggest enemy, and he noted that no anticipated change in policy between Washington and Pyongyang. For more information about these and other stories, read my weekly political intelligence briefing and my coronavirus report, both of which are accessible from the front page of the Country Watch website at www.countrywatch.com. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and remember that we live in an interconnected world.